I mean, that's the most you can do as far as to benefit the world around you, to be good at that, to be a good wife and a good mother. Around the world, as promised, a remnant remains who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Welcome to Remnant Podcast.
So we're back again with a couple's corner.
30.
And we wanted to talk about something that is kind of a pet peeve thing of mine personally, but I also want to encourage other people. This phrase where it's like, I'm just a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Because you are a stay-at-home mom.
Oh, yeah. Well, it hurts my heart for young ladies who think that, or even women who think that, or men, I guess. So people. It hurts my heart for people who think that. Because, first of all, it's something to be proud of. It's something to be very proud of, because it's seriously the most that a woman can do with her life is to be a wife and a mother. I mean, that's the most you can do as far as to benefit the world around you, to be good at that, to be a good wife and a good mother. Now, I'm not saying you can't do other things also. That's not what I mean. But it is such a valuable position to hold. Another thing that I think is very unfortunate is that when you do say something like, I'm just a stay-at-home mom, it really takes away from what all the job entails. There is definitely propaganda that a woman is more successful if she clocks in somewhere. She's doing something more with her life. And that, again, could not be further from the truth. Whenever I go to fill out a form, like for maybe a doctor's appointment or something like that, anytime they say, do you have a job? I always say, yeah, but not one that gives me a paycheck. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I say, well, I'm a stay-at-home mother and wife. And they're like, oh, you got the hardest job of all. Every single time they say that. And I'm not saying that it is the hardest job at all, but it is a job. You're not lazy when you're a stay-at-home mom. And that's really the idea that is associated with women who aren't in the workforce. It's that, well, then why are you so lazy if you don't want to go to a 9 to 5? And that is just so far from the truth,
Perhaps the words stay at home has got a bad connotation, because it's not like you just sit in the house all day long. You know what I mean?
On good days, I do.
Yeah. When it's a good day, you do. But there's a lot outdoors you do. And then there's also a lot of, driving and getting groceries and gathering stuff together that you do. And it's a lot. So, perhaps the stay at home gives it it's not a prison. That's not what it means. You're not a prison, mama. But why are some people not a stay-at-home mom? Now, let me be careful. I don't know. I'm sure some would say, well, I have to work because of this income or whatever. But to me, there's no dishonor in self-sacrifice, sacrificing your time and the things that you may have had, these things that you perhaps wanted to pursue at one time, but your family was a greater calling to you.
Oh, absolutely.
And so here's why I'm saying that. We did a thing on Jen Johnson recently, and to me, we don't have to rehash any of that, but why she's not a stay-at-home mom, in my opinion, actually ended up just being selfish reasons. She wanted to pursue something else.
Oh, for
so
her,
hire
absolutely.
a babysitter and go pursue something else. So that's what I mean, is you're sacrificing perhaps some of the things that you want to do. And I want to say something else about that. This is often misunderstood and overlooked. The high calling is not for a mother to leave her family. It's for her to stay. And oftentimes we like to hide our selfish interests or whatever under this idea of we're doing something better. Let me give you an example. A 35-year-old dad, I talked to a man that he confessed this. He's a soldier, raised in the army or whatever. I commend that. That's fine. He was able to retire early and have a farm life and stuff. There was, I don't want to say too much. I still respect the family. But he was he wanted to go back and travel and go overseas and work and be a soldier, basically. And I asked him, I said, what's harder? being a father, working in the States, holding down a 40-hour, raising your kids, or just hopping on the plane and going over to Iraq because that's where he was based. He said, honestly, he said, it's way harder to stay home and be a good father.
Yeah, he even said that's why he was.
Yeah, he said it. He said, no, he's like, I'll be honest with you. That's why I'm going.
Right.
He said, when I get over there, I don't have that weight. I don't have that stress. I don't have that whatever. And I was like, well, man, I appreciate you being honest with me because that's what I wanted to know. And that's kind of what I'm saying. Sometimes a mom might be like, oh, no, I've got to get out in the workforce. I got to do. It's like, wait a minute. What's actually harder? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking you might be taking the easy way sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time.
Right.
But it's hard to be a mom at home, maybe teaching your kids, homeschooling your children, and doing a lot of the things that you would do at home if you really said, you know what, I'm going to be the best mom, wife, stay-at-home mom that I can be. That's a huge job. That's a Proverbs 31 job. It's a big deal. It is a huge
job. Yeah. It's in the heart of a woman. It really is. I have never, ever had a woman say, oh, I'd rather have to work every day, Monday through Friday, Now, I have had women say stuff like, oh, I don't know how this has not happened many times, but there have been a couple of times where a woman will say something like, I don't know how you can be around your kids all day long. That would drive me nuts.
Part of it was if you'd been around your kids all day long from the start, you would probably have them better disciplined. They wouldn't have had a lot of the social influences that you didn't want that's creeping in your home. Who knows, man?
That's true.
We don't have to get into all that.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed to say I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Don't
or stay-at-home wife. Even if it's before you've had the opportunity to have children. I think it's commendable to be a stay-at-home wife. And I'm not saying, obviously, none of this is about you can't or you shouldn't. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying be proud to say I'm a stay-at-home wife or a stay-at-home mom.
To me, it's like me being embarrassed to say, if somebody says, what do you do for a living? Or what do you do? It's almost like for me to be apples to apples, I'd be embarrassed to be like, man, I'm just a working father supporting my family.
Right.
It's like, well, wait, why are you down on yourself about that, bro? Yeah. That's a high calling.
Yes.
That's good.
Exactly.
I mean, if I told people how little money I made for about a 2-year span of our marriage when we had 4 children, if they only knew how small of a paycheck I was getting each week for 2 years, I mean, honestly, how do we make it? God. That's how we made it.
Exactly.
But
yes.
it was still this idea of, well, send the kids off to daycare and you get a job.
That never even crossed our minds.
No. No, really, never even thought about it. Yeah, It was never even because there was so much more to cherish in the home that we had that it was like, let nothing break this up,
I had a great raising. I'm not trying to take away from that, but it was definitely the focus was financial security. You want to pursue financial security, and double income was a faster way to that. And
the day we got married, your parents was like, so what's your backup plan?
My mom did.
It's like, what?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Marriage is the backup plan.
Right. And, but there's so much that comes along with being a stay-at-home wife that you don't even realize happens when you make the decision, at least the way I did. People are going to think this is going to be a negative in the beginning, but it actually is one of the most positives. But it is exactly that. It removes a sense of backup plan. I provide for myself. I don't need my husband near as much. And you may have zero intention of that in your mind. That may be totally subliminal almost, or totally subconscious, I should say. But I think that whenever you kind of take all that away and put it to the side, I think it's a beautiful thing to need your husband and to recognize you need your husband and for him to know that you need him. And it adds to the relationship. Well, I definitely hoped and intended for this to be something encouraging. I'm afraid that part of it was controversial, but
Well, yeah, we didn't mean for it to be. I do understand some women do have to work, and then also like if you don't have kids and stuff. I mean, I get that. I get that really.
Right.
But I also have seen some examples. There's a young lady that's a real good friend of ours. I won't say that part because I don't want to give her name away. She's a young wife. And she's a stay-at-home wife, so to speak. But, man, is she driven. She's finding things that she can do and market and manage, and it's like awesome.
Yeah.
And then she's not out there having to deal with the threats that will attack her marriage, being in co-ed workspaces and all that kind of stuff. And we won't get into the history of it. But even if you don't have children, like you said, man, you can – there's so much that well, women can do amazing things, honestly. That's what I was thinking. It's not about women can't do something in the workforce. It's, to an extent, it's that men can't do something that women can do, and that's to really nurture and raise up children. And, there's just, it's just...
There's
God's
a
design is beautiful. You said this on a podcast one time. When we do it God's way, things are perfect.
Yeah,
and
really.
it really is.
And there is a value to being a stay-at-home wife and a stay-at-home mother. And that was really the point of all this, is it is valuable. It's not something to be ashamed of.
Oh, absolutely. You're right. It's not something to be ashamed of. I'll say it with thanks in your heart and proud.
Yes,
that you're,
exactly. Gratitude. I get to be a stay-at-home wife, or I get to be a stay-at-home
I'm saying,
mom.
like, thanks to God, thanks to his wisdom, thanks to the husband that's willing to go out and do his part,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We good?
We're great.